We're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another broadcast of This Week in Real Estate, hosted by yours truly. I'm Ray. I'm a bearded man of real estate, and we're live everywhere. We're on Clubhouse, we're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you're joining us from, or maybe you're one of the thousands of people that download the show weekly. That's right. Believe it or not, this show's in the thousands. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. If you are joining us live, you can comment, and I can display your comment or talk about you, or we can talk about your comment. You can do that from any of the places except for Instagram. If you're on Instagram, I'll just call you out because I have no way of actually displaying your comment. Brian Hershey, old college buddy, said, "Oh no, you again." Yeah, you come almost every week, Brian, but I appreciate you showing up. We have a ton of news to get into today. There's some lawsuits happening again, believe it or not. But this time it's not against all realtors, just some. We're going to be talking about the clear cooperation. What's happening with clear cooperation? We're going to be talking about the brokerage's response to that. And we have a little economic news. The thumbnail actually says it all. Tariff turmoil. And is it going to cause housing markets to crash? I want you guys' thoughts on this. Given everything that's happened in the economy, what's going on with tariffs, the trade war versus China, are we going to be plunged into a recession that causes housing to crash? And we're going to look at that question honestly today. So thanks everyone for joining us. And let me share my screen and we can get right into the first story. It's an interesting day today. A lot of shady stuff happening, just kind of around the industry. So hopefully, I mean, if it does get hard, hopefully it cleans some of this out. I'm just gonna start there today, because that's the feel, all the feels. All right, first up, brokerages. We talked about clear cooperation last week and how now you are allowed to do several things. One of them is to do a private marketing of some sort. Kim Dunnigan says, "I don't think so." You don't think we're going to be plunged into a recession, Kim? Let's talk about it. But first, brokerages roll out a private listing network in wake of CCP ruling. This is in wake of the CCP ruling, meaning that they are going to keep in place clear cooperation, but also allow a exclusionary marketing tactic that puts properties onto the MLS, but doesn't allow them to go to the third-party services or out to IDX feeds. That's the new thing that you're allowed to do. So now I can market the property privately and have it on the MLS. In response of that, now brokerages roll out a private listing network. What? The CCCP? No. Every time it says CCP, I do think of China, but I feel like there's something I'm missing, and I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. The existing clear cooperation policy, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, please. The existing clear cooperation policy, as I understand it, allows brokerage exclusives, meaning that a brokerage could have a private label of all of the properties that they have listed and give no one else access to that, as long as they don't also put it publicly somewhere. That currently is allowed. So I don't understand how brokerages rolling out a private network is in the wake of the CCP ruling when that's always been allowed. The clear cooperation policy didn't prevent that from happening. So why would this be in response to that? Did they just not read it? I mean, come on, they got legal teams. Surely they know. Douglas Elliman in the Corcoran Group in recent weeks have
Corcoran.
Okay.
Corcoran, yeah.
Corcoran. Douglas Elliman and the Corcoran Group in recent weeks have quietly announced private label. And by quietly, they mean that they put it on their Instagram profile. I don't think that's quiet. That's not very quiet. Hey, we're going to roll this out and market it on our Instagram profile. That's definitely not quiet. But they've quietly announced private listing networks within their brokerage firms as the conversation about private exclusives continue to heat up in the real estate community. On Monday, Douglas Elliman teased on social media and released internally to its network that the firm would be soon launching Black Label private listings, an exclusive private listing platform to provide more choice for its clients. Okay. Coming soon, Black Label private listings. It is with great excitement we announced the upcoming launch of Black Label. I feel like a ton of people are using like Black Label as like a phrase meaning exclusionary, which is funny. Our clients deserve choice in how their home is marketed, whether it's privately on Black Label or publicly on Element.com. President of CEO Douglas Elliman, working with our real estate advisors, sellers will find the best path for a successful sale. Okay, fine. I have no problem with that as long as buyers know what they're doing. I guess my problem is the seeming confusion against what CCP is and what it allows and what it has allowed. Because the biggest complaint with what NAR decided to do with its CCP from other agents that I'm talking with is like, well, now brokerages will try to keep it in-house. They can do that already. What am I missing? They can do that currently. The difference is now you can have some kind of exclusionary marketing where you put it on the MLS and other companies can see it without it going to Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Trulia. Trulia. Is that the drink? Trulia? Or is that no, Truly. Is Truly the drink?
Truly is the drink. Trulia
was
bought out by Zillow a long time ago. But they're basically the same thing and they still have the site because people still go there.
Got it. All right, that makes sense. I get confused. I need one of them right now. So Corcoran has
a lot of them.
Yeah, it could be 3 or 4. Corcoran has Corcoran Reserve, a private network for Corcoran agents and clients, where agent and client can size up market conditions and calibrate the value proposition before going public with a listing. Let's see. Prior to the National Association of Realtors announcement last month that the association would be keeping clear cooperation in place while adding a new delayed marketing exempt listing option for home sellers to keep listings from publicly being marketed on the MLS. Other brokerage firms had also started to advertise listing options. Yeah, because they could. Compass, for instance, launched its Compass One client portal dashboard in February, which connects clients and agents to every phase of the transaction. Okay, yeah. So it's basically saying, yeah, and this company has this listing hub, and this company has that listing hub. I think
it's much to do about nothing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills every time I see somebody that's like a proponent for CCP, and they're like, well, I'm for CCP because I don't want these big brokerages to gain a foothold and just be able to keep all these listings private like that. Wow. That's exactly, it doesn't prevent that. So
it doesn't prevent that, but the brokerages that are going to be, let's call it exclusionary listings versus an exclusive inclusionary listing, right? So the exclusionary is that it's only going to go within the brokerage, but there's those quote unquote luxury brokerages that have those high-end clients like Corcoran, like Douglas Elliman,
Yeah.
that have those high-end, high-profile clients, buyers and sellers, and they don't want their information out there.
Yeah.
So
Well,
they're like, hey, do not put this on MLS out to everybody in the world to see. Only put it out within your brokerage. And then, I mean, I guess if you're going to feed it out to other agents at other brokerages that may deal with that type of clientele, it may have to be a one-off amendment to the listing agreement so that they understand that it's only going to be in this one case for this one buyer.
yeah.
I think it's crazy to say that there's a limitation to any of that, because the seller, it's ultimately up to the seller on how they want their property marketed and
Yeah.
who they want to be able to see it.
I think that's the way to do it. Just let the seller decide, and the seller has a checkbox on listings and says, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And then when they're like, okay, let's put it on the market now for real, then you have an addendum to the agreement. I mean, I feel like that's the simplest solution. And when someone says like, oh, I heard you have this property that you're marketing and it's, not allowed for everyone to see it. It's like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, here's the listing.
But you can do that now, but you don't have the checkboxes. You just have stipulations within your listing agreement on how exactly they want to market it.
That's it. We write
you can do that now. So there's nothing is really different, except that they're going to put those options within MLS for us to, kind of check those boxes when we add the listing to MLS. If we even add it to MLS, they may not even want it to go into MLS because they just want to stay within the brokerage and use an internal brokerage, quote unquote, MLS.
Yeah. I mean, even Real Broker has a whole luxury division now, which Kofi, an amazing agent, is leading. And I could definitely envision a world in which those listings, are on some kind of, we have an app and all this back end tech that we use. And I can definitely envision a world where there's a button where you can see all the exclusive listings. And it's just boom, you hit the button and there's all the listings and you can sort, and just like an MLS would be. And I'm wondering what that world looks like in the future. If all agencies have this, then it's setting up the premise that Refkin laid out, where the whole thing is not advantageous to the small agency, because the way it's written currently is that Refkin cannot allow Real Broker agents into their net of listings, and Real Broker cannot allow Refkin agents into theirs. And so it is per brokerage, which is, I mean, it's a huge disadvantage for a small boutique firm, unless that small boutique firm just kind of owns the area, but that's likely short-lived. Ultimately, I think the seller should be able to decide what they want to do here. But I thought this article was interesting. Linda Martin sent me this, and it's a take from John Riley about the velvet rope revolution, exclusive inventory, and the quiet coup in real estate by Vanessa Saunders. And I guess John Riley posted it. Maybe he wrote part of it. I don't know. So it talks about this being a wake-up call. This guy, so Riley puts in his words on top of Vanessa. That's what it is. I woke up this morning reading the following article in Vanessa Saunders' Substack channel. Vanessa is one of my favorite contributors. The velvet rope exclusion, exclusive inventory, and the quiet coup in real estate. This isn't a trend, it's a takeover. In case you missed the memo, Compass have been quietly rolling out what they called exclusive inventory. Sounds sexy, a little VP, you have to know someone, a little secret club in Soho basement. Let me translate. It's pre-marketing, a soft open, a controlled leak of your listing to carefully curate a pool of in-the-know insiders before the home hits the big, bad public MLS. If this were a restaurant world, the chef's tasting menu minus the food safety. It's funny. He said, this is not about serving sellers. This is about controlling the marketplace. That's his general take. The recipe, part one, one part data grab, 2 parts commission grab. They want to control the listings, control the leads, control the money. Agents get perk off-market deals to dangle in front of buyers like a forbidden fruit. Brokerages get to double end. What's in it for the public? What's in it for the seller? Who's really winning here are the questions that he's asking in the article. Here's the kicker. 94% of these so-called exclusives end up on the MLS anyway, so it's the point. That's right, to capture the lead first. Let's see. What else does he, would most sellers still opt in if they knew their listing would get less initial exposure? They may miss the best buyers in the earliest frenzy. Their exclusive agent may be incentivized to find their own buyer before letting the wolves in. Let's see. And unless we speak up and protect the public trust, we're going to wake up one day in the marketplace that's more about lead ownership than home ownership. He said, we need to call it what it is. It's not pre-marketing, it's preclusion. It's not exclusive, it's exclusionary. It's not client first, it's brokerage first. We need ethics back in the conversation. We need MLS to serve the public, not the power players. We need agents who understand the fiduciary duty. It isn't optional. It's the damn job. And maybe, just maybe, we move more fire-breathing dragons who are willing to torch the velvet ropes before they strangle the market altogether. He said, because it isn't just a business model, it's a coup. Quiet, profitable, and absolutely real. All right, so John Riley is a real estate attorney, educator, and author of The Language of Real Estate, 8th edition. There's four comments on the post. Everyone's pretty supportive of it. Interesting, though, it has nothing to do with the current situation. I mean, this is not new. I mean, I just don't understand. You know, people are like, oh, we have to keep this CCP in place so that people have to put their property on the market. But that's not what CCP does. It doesn't force anyone to list the property until it's marketed publicly already. So you're still allowed to control the listings, control the leads, control the money. You're still allowed to have brokerage exclusives currently, and you have them for years. Like I said, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills every time I look into this, because it seems like there's one side of the argument that just doesn't get it. And I wish they would, because then what they're supporting, they would understand doesn't stop it. It's like saying we really need this legislation to pass to ban knives so that gun violence goes down. That's what this is like to me. That's the level of crazy that I feel like, I don't know. Real estate attorney, he's got to be a smart guy. I just, if I'm missing it, tell me out. Drop it in the comments. Tell me. For those podcast listeners who are going to listen to this later, send me a message. Ray Zorback on Instagram, RayZorback, RayZorback. What am I missing in this? Why are people supporting CCP in an effort to prevent broker exclusion, which it doesn't do? I don't know. I'm sorry. It's every time I look at the issue, it just makes my head spin. All right. Let's take a look at this one now. Gibson defendants make another attempt at escaping a Missouri judge. A subsidiary of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is attempting to have seller commission lawsuit known as Gibson transferred from Missouri to its home state, Iowa. Des Moines-based Berkshire Hathaway Energy, who's a parent company of Home Services of America, filed a motion on Monday to transfer from the Western District of Missouri to the Southern District of Iowa. This follows March 27th request. You guys might recall that we talked about this, from fellow defendant Howard Hanna to have the court reconsider its motion to transfer. Wasn't this the one that also asked the judge to recuse themselves because the plaintiffs gave money to the judge's wife? Was it this one, Gibson? I think it was. That may be one of the MLS pins, but I think that was this one. Moreover, the BHE never belonged to, managed, or oversaw any local realtor association, including the National Association of Realtors, has never been a member of multiple listing service in Missouri or elsewhere. BHE has never encouraged or mandated its subsidiaries to specifically to join NAR. It's never adopted and never has required or encouraged subsidiaries to adopt NAR. So basically they're saying, why are we over here? We're not even doing business over there. Well, they're doing business, but they're not involved with the NAR or anything. So it's impossible for them to be colluding with something that they're not a member of, right? At the same time, BHE and Howard Hanna are attempting to have the Gibson suit moved. The two firms are also calling for Judge Stephen Arbo, who's been overseeing the case in Missouri, to recuse himself. Yeah, this is it. Over the political donations from the plaintiff's attorney made to Bo's wife. All right. So we'll see if they get it moved to Iowa. That's the current filing. We already know how Stephen is going to rule on this because he's ruled previously in some very, very similar case. All right, we have some. This one's interesting to me. I don't normally get into like back and forth between an agent specifically, but this is a big agent on a big team going against 3 Keller Williams franchises. I think it's 3. 3 Orlando, Florida area franchisees claim Veronica Figueroa benefited when Joseph Furman, her director of growth with the FIG team at eXp Realty, allegedly broke a non-solicitation agreement. So I want to get your guys' opinion on this. If this is, I don't know if it's enforceable or not. We're not going to go that direction because that's a question best left to the courts, in my opinion, the legal beagles. But I'm curious if this actually breaks a non-compete, because the amount of times I've seen people do what he says, what they say this person does, is huge. Long-standing rivalry between Keller Williams and eXp Realty is trickling down to the Sunshine State. They talk about in this how eXp got started. Let me find that. I thought it was ironic. I didn't know this, but basically Sanford was not invited to an elite meeting or text thread. I don't know if it was like a text group or what. So he went and started eXp. That's how it started. I didn't know that. That's a funny story. So 3 Keller Williams franchises filed suit alleging infractions connected with the agent recruitment efforts. In an April 6th complaint, Keller Williams Advantage 2 Realty in Waterford, Keller Williams Advantage in Oviedo, and Keller Williams Advantage 3 Realty in Lake Nona. Those are the 3 that are going against Figueroa. They say, quote, she, or the group, not her personally, intentionally instructed Furman, I guess it is her personally, intentionally instructed Furman to recruit agents from the plaintiffs and or refused to stop Furman from doing so, which injured the benefit of her by such agents joining and earning money for her team. The foregoing interference by Figueroa with the contractual relationship between Furman and the plaintiffs was unjustifiable. The suit accuses her of tortious interference and alleges that she caused the plaintiffs more than $50,000 in damages. The complaint accuses Furman, the guy that came over onto her team, of breach of contract and misappropriation of trade secrets, including, quote, improperly disclosing plaintiffs' confidential financial data, payment data, broker split details, payment information to third parties without plaintiff's consent or authorization. It's so weird to me to think of a world in which you can't or are not supposed to talk about your split with another brokerage. When like our company just puts it out there publicly, like everyone's on the same deal. It's 85-15, 12K cap. Teams get a slightly different deal. If you're a team member, it's a half cap instead of the full cap. So, I mean, it's just all like publicly available information. And it's still like, I feel like holding on to like split information is the same as people holding on to the MLS listing books. It's just so old. Like everyone knows. All the agents in the marketplace already know. But this is one of the ways that they get people that leave. Is if you reveal this information, it's considered part of their trade secrets. So Furman has damaged plaintiffs by engaging in seeking to engage agents in their respective offices, and that plaintiffs will not receive revenue associated with the sales of such offices. All right. So basically, non-compete that they're claiming he signed says you cannot recruit people once you leave. You can't recruit the staff. You can't recruit the agents. You can't recruit them. All right. What is the definition of recruit? According to the complaint, Furman worked for those companies for 2 years, was a team leader, signed a confidentiality and non-solicitation agreement, which was included in the exhibit, by the way. Oh, they have the whole non-confidentiality. This is interesting. Do y'all want to see a confidentiality agreement? I mean, if we're going to get into the weeds, we could go into that. We'll see if we need to, because I think there's enough said in the actual complaint. So he was about a year after working for the 2 KW offices. Furman was relieved of his duties regarding KW Advantage 2 Realty, but continued working for KW Advantage Realty. At all times, he understood and acknowledged that he was still governed by the agreement. So they let him go, but kept him on as an agent. What's it mean still working for? Was he in the same position? Interesting way to phrase all that. So KW Advantage Realty terminated Furman on January 20th, 2025, and he subsequently went to work for Figueroa. So this is also interesting. Like, this is a situation in which a guy got fired, but she didn't recruit him and then say, hey, recruit all the people. They fired him. That's interesting. I feel like that's going to be treated differently, but maybe not. If somebody leaves and then they start taking everyone with them and it was their choice to leave, I mean, that's pretty malicious. But if you fire someone, you can't say now you can't have a relationship with people. All right, we'll talk about what he did. Hang on. After gaining employment with the Fig Group in the direction of Figueroa, Furman had repeatedly engaged and sought to engage real estate agents at Waterford, Oviedo, and Lake Nona. Furman has and continues to do so directly and by indirect means. For example, having agents of such offices on his personal podcast and communicating to plaintiff's agents that he misses them, which is an obvious attempt to initiate a recruiting conversation. That's interesting. So having someone on your podcast and saying, hey, I miss you, is considered a recruiting practice from this suit. I feel that, that's a stretch. If he was like sending stuff like, hey, you should join us over here because it's a lot more fun, and they fired me over there, and so now I'm over here and this is way better anyway. I like it. I probably would have joined over here had they not fired me. That I feel like is recruiting talk. Saying like, hey guys, I miss you guys. I don't feel like that's a recruiting conversation. Oh, sorry, man. That is a person that called 3 times to get around my do not disturb. Insane. Take the hint. Sorry. The foregoing has caused multiple agents to leave their engagements with one or more plaintiffs' offices. So that's all it took? Hey, you want to be on my podcast? Cool. Hey, miss you. We're leaving KW for you. I mean, work on the value prop first, because that's pretty lightweight as far as a retraction / recruiting practice goes that I've seen. That's pretty lightweight. The suit asked the courts in the Circuit Court of the Ninth Judicial Circuit and Orange County, Florida, for damages from both Furman and Figueroa, as well as for an injunction barring Furman from recruiting away the KW franchises these agents for 2 years after January 20th. So I see in the non-compete. What?
This is on 1099 contractors.
Yeah, this is a 1099 contractor, but he did sign a non-compete. He signed as himself, and I'm looking at the non-compete now. It says where KWR's trade secrets provide economic advantages, where they want to keep their trade secrets secret. Their franchise agreement was entered into in 2006. Wow. Where the franchisee agreed to obtain from those recipients written agreements, trade secrets, unfair competition. I'm looking for the part about recruiting. A recipient shall not at any time make copies of any documents or compilations containing some or all of KWRI's trade secrets without KWRI's express written permission. May not disclose. Will surrender all brand materials when they leave. They won't directly or indirectly do any act or omit to do any act which would be likely injurious or prejudicial to. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's goodwill stuff. Protect the goodwill, attempt to divert. I'm still looking for the non-compete part. Okay, here it is. In further consideration for the disclosed to recipient of the trade secrets and to protect the uniqueness of the system, recipient agrees in covenants for 2 years following the earlier of the termination, cancellation, or expiration or transfer, or association with. Okay, the recipient will not, without the prior written consent of KWRI, divert or attempt to divert directly or indirectly any business opportunity, or customer of the market centers using the system to any competitor. Using the system. That's interesting phrasing. If I had to parse words, the divert or attempt to divert, indirectly or directly, any business, does that mean if I'm in a listing competition with an agent from that other office that I can't I can't now divert that business to me? I mean, that would be hard to enforce. Okay. That would be really hard to enforce. The other part of this is it says he wouldn't using the system. So I could go in competition with another agent, but I can't use the listing presentation that KW gave me or the skills that they gave me. B, employ or engage or seek to employ or engage any person who is at the time employed or engaged by KWRI or any franchisee or regional representative of KWRI, or otherwise directly or indirectly induce any such person to leave his or her employment or engagement. Franchisees undertake the use of best efforts to ensure they've. So that's the section. It's section 8. Employ or engage or seek to employ or engage any person who is at the time employed or engaged by. I mean, that's just okay. Induce any such person. So let me read this as a sentence because it's kind of hard. Recipient shall not employ or engage or seek to employ, directly or indirectly induce any such person to leave his or her employment or engagement. I just cut out all the like ifs, ands, or buts in there. I mean, that's not super clear. I guess we kind of understand what you're saying, but are you considered employed if you're a 1099? I guess it's a 1099 employee, so that would be employed. So that would cover not only staff, but that would also cover agents, 1099, Andy. That's pretty much
that's my thing. 1099s are, I mean, when you sign your basic agreement, most of the time it doesn't have all this extra language in it for, recruiting when you leave. Most brokerages that I've seen, because I've been with a few, they're just like, okay, if you ever have any issues, come on back. Most of them are just, it's don't burn the bridge.
Yeah.
Everything's cool. But this is like, it's so, to me, especially being KW, they had KW Bold. I've been through it. I was there years ago. But there's that whole, hey, let's not have a scarcity mindset. That to me is all this is like the scarcity mindset that somebody, a big name is going to leave and then recruit. But at the same time, you're going to miss out on other opportunities to recruit newer agents to yourself. I mean, that battle is going to go back and forth so many times, it's not even funny. And it's a 1099 contractor that, can just leave whenever the heck they want, unless they have some other agreement.
Yeah, I think so. This was kind of my understanding of some 1099 / non-competes, and one that I entered into with a previous partner. I couldn't say you can't do the business of a real estate agent, which is buying and selling houses. I don't want you to compete with me in buying and selling houses anymore. But I could say, I don't want you to compete with me in building and competing brokerage. And if they did that, I would have to allow them to do that. So I can see where, I mean, what it says about using the system to get business, that's going to be very difficult to enforce. And I mean, why would you even put that part in there? In my opinion, it's just like, how are you going to enforce that? The second part about recruiting away someone should be more specifically spelled out, but I think it's vague on purpose. But because it's ambiguous, I think that's going to be its downfall and the reason why KW won't win this lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer, but this is my opinion on it. The employ or engage or seek to employ or engage any person at the time employed, you can't say, hey, there's another real estate agent in your marketplace. You can't engage them once you leave our company. And you can't say directly or indirectly induce any such person to leave his or her employment. Having someone on my podcast is not inducing them. If anything, it's promoting KW on my podcast, of which I used to be a part of. And that person that came on that podcast had every opportunity, most likely, to talk about the company they were with. Now, if they make it brokerage agnostic and they didn't even talk about that, then they would be hard pressed to find a recruiting strategy just to have someone, another local agent discussing something on the podcast. If you're just building relationships with agents, there's a multitude of reasons to build relationships with agents beyond having them work with you. I mean, yeah, I want them to work with me on a transaction. I want them to accept my offer and not someone else's. So there's a variety of reasons that he can easily say, oh no, I'm just trying to maintain the relationships to be, play nice in the sandbox, so that because I left and got fired, I don't know what you guys are saying about me, but I wanted to try to maintain those relationships so that I could sell and it didn't have an adverse impact on my clients. That's a very easy defense. And I don't even know that this will actually make it to court. It's such an easy defense. And then to have someone say, well, you can't say I miss you. You definitely can't do that. you definitely can't, because you do have a reasonable freedom to speak. And he's not engaging or in a way that induces someone to join him, unless he says, I miss you. I wish you were working at the same brokerage I am. Why don't you come have a chat with us? or I miss you. And the other person says, I miss you too. Yeah, it was a lot of fun working together. Yeah, it sure was. And then if he makes the call out, if he says you should come over here, he can't do that. Now, if the other agent says, yeah, I've been thinking about actually making a move over there with you, then it's off, man. He can talk to that person all he wants because that person brought it up. So my understanding is that the person that has left, that assigned the non-compete, can't be the one to bring it up. But if someone else pursues them, then that's KW's loss in this case. So I'm interested to see how it's going to happen because of, in our industry, most of you who are listening to this have signed a non-compete. Some of you may have signed a contract with your brokerage and not realize that there was a portion of it that was a non-compete. So it would be interesting, maybe for some of you to go back and read that and see how vague or direct it is. I think a best practice from someone who would look to sign an agreement would be this, to get a lot of clarity on what 8B said and get that clarity in writing so that they couldn't come after me for some vague reason and cost me attorney fees in the future for something stupid. Which so far, and this is what the complaint says. Let me share this part of the complaint. Let's go. Hang on. I'm going to read the exact complaint because some of you may thought, oh, surely there's more to it. Okay. After gaining employment with TFG and on the direction of Figueroa, Furman repeatedly engaged and sought to engage real estate agents at Waterford, Oviedo, and Lake Nona. Furman has and continues to do so directly and by indirect means. For example, having agents of such offices on his personal podcast and communicating to plaintiff's agents that he misses them, that was literally in there, which is an obvious attempt to initiate a recruiting conversation. I can't see them winning on that. Now, if they said that he's engaged and repeatedly engaged, let's say he's doing general emails to the entire MLS database. It's kind of like, well, hey, you contacted my seller about selling a property. It's like, no, I did a mail route, every door direct, and your seller got the mailer. It's not intended for someone that's already engaged. I mean, so, if it's a big general call out and it hits those agents too, does he have to make reasonable efforts to nix them? That's a big question. As a result of defendant Furman's breach of confidentiality and non-solicitation agreement, plaintiffs are entitled to recover reasonable attorney's fees and costs enforcing the agreement. All right. It's an interesting case. I wanted to talk about it because all of us have signed this document or one similar, and I thought maybe we could relate. We'll see what happens. We have more news. Open stocks flirt with the $1 threshold. If you guys don't know, if you have a stock that's on the market and you're around $1 and you go under that for 30 days, you're kicked off of some of the major exchanges. And this is not a great time for a lot of the stocks. And Andy, I see Andy says breaking tariff news. We are going to get to that very shortly. I definitely see that. Very interesting. Okay. Let's see. As the U.S. economy grappled in the recent days with Trump administration sweeping tariffs, at least two big real estate companies were flirting with the dangerous milestone, the $1 per share threshold. We've already talked about what happens. Those prices represent a significant reversal in the fortune of the iBuyer. Yeah, they were really high, $35 a share, and now it's. What's going on with Fathom though? I thought they were doing pretty good, but they're also down there. Did Opendoor and Fathom Holdings is different. They are down to 73 cents a share. So Fathom shares first fell below $1 in early March in the company's attempts to reverse the downward trend. Days ago, Fathom unveiled a new concierge-oriented commission offering. Okay. In a conversation with Inman Friday, Tom White, a managing director and senior research analyst who covers real estate companies for D.A. Davidson, speculated that Fathom's troubles could stem in part from the firm's relative youth. White's thesis was that in leaner economic times, agents might gravitate to leaner brokerages such as eXp or Real, but Fathom's shares have fallen more than 70% over the last 6 months, a far greater dip than the roughly 30% drop off experienced by eXp and Real. So, is Fathom a budget discount brand? I'm not too familiar with them. I know they are here locally, but what I understand of them, and I could be wrong, it's just the general idea of marketing that I've gotten from them is that they were like a budget or a discount brand. But I can't remember if the discount was for the agent, like it was a cheap brokerage to join because they didn't take your money, or if the budget was what Fathom was offering to consumers. Hey, use us and you could save money. Unfortunately, I can't remember.
Yeah, I believe it's they're just a local.
Go ahead, Britt.
I was just gonna say, yeah, they're like a discount for the agent.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like lower fees for the agent. Yeah.
So lower fees for the agent, battling on how much the agent could. I mean, it is tough if that is your brokerage model to somehow convince shareholders that you're going to be making more money. But this was an interesting comment by the analyst. He said, but Fathom shares have fallen more than 70% over the last 6 months, as far as greater dip than roughly the 30% drop experienced by eXp and Real. But previously, let's see, he said, White's thesis was that in leaner economic times, agents might gravitate to leaner brokerages such as eXp or Real. So they're saying that Fathom is not lean. The perception in my brain, I would say if a brokerage is saying, hey, come to us, you can just keep all your money, I feel like as an agent, I would think, well, they must be running lean because I'm not paying them anything. They must be super efficient, running super lean to provide whatever services I need as an agent. Maybe it's no services, but they have to be lean or else they can't operate. So I'm assuming they're lean, but apparently maybe not. So we'll see. It's hard. I'll tell you, I made the decision to join Real after operating my own brokerage. And one of the big reasons was it was impossible for us to run as lean as they are and have access to the tech that they have. There were 10 years ahead of me on tech, and there was no way I could, as a small boutique firm, operate in a way that gains me enough money to compete on the tech side. So that's why we jumped. So lean is a big deal. All right, Move Inc. moves to dismiss the trade secrets case against CoStar. I guess maybe I should have moved this article up considering we just talked about trade secrets. Move Inc. filed a motion to dismiss the case against the portal competitor CoStar on Monday in a dispute over whether the former Realtor.com employee sought to use trade secrets to give Homes.com an advantage. Move also said that it reached a settlement agreement with James Kamansky, the former head of the news and insights group at Realtor.com, and it's moved to dismiss the case against CoStar, the parent company of Homes.com. Move had alleged that Kamansky left Realtor.com for a position at Homes.com. He accessed strategic documents related to Realtor.com's plans to grow its online traffic through news articles. Can I just say the strategic plan to use news articles to grow your online growth has been out there for about 15 years, maybe 20. I used to have a website that was like nwarealestatenews.com or something. I can't even remember the website name, but all it was local real estate news. And the reason why it was there was for me to get leads. You'd be hard pressed to say this is a trade secret. No one thought of this. After catching up our after catching our ex-employee brazenly accessing our strategy documents. Now that's different. While employed at CoStar, we act decisively, launching legal action to halt and prevent anyone ongoing exploitation of our intellectual property. One of the interesting things about accessing, when they say accessing, it sounds like they're catching a guy red-handed going into the files and looking at the files. There's a couple of things that could be happening here that's not necessarily Kamansky. So that's why you have to continue to say allegedly. In some of these cases, people download a file onto their home computer to work on something. Okay, and so I've downloaded this file, or maybe I have an FTP folder or a Dropbox folder or a box.com folder or whatever on my computer. And when I open my computer, the folder goes out and accesses the original folder, and it updates itself against the original. It syncs with whatever other documents are in there. And if I've left a company, and maybe it was on a laptop I used a couple of times, just to get some work done, I closed it, never thought about it again. And now I'm going on vacation. I got my new company. Hey, I'm going to grab that old laptop and take that, do what I need to do. I open it up, and then, it syncs in the background. I forget this file is even there. I go to work. I do what I need to do. I get off. I don't even look at the stuff, but my computer has accessed that file after leaving the company. So sometimes you see that kind of thread, and it's very hard for the person in that case to say, well, I didn't look at anything. I didn't see it. So if you're in a position to have some sensitive documents and you have synced some of your personal folders or files with work, be sure to cut those ties so that you don't have them. The company said it decided to reach the settlement with Kamansky and dismiss the case against CoStar after Kamansky was laid off from CoStar earlier this year. Given that he's no longer employed by CoStar, we have a settlement in place and have chosen to dismiss our trade secrets lawsuit against CoStar. The risk of additional misuse has been mitigated. That's gotta stink. So, I mean, why is it so easily dropped though? Okay, he doesn't work there anymore. It sounds like you were more after like Kamansky than you were CoStar, which maybe that was the case. But if Kamansky gave everything he had to CoStar, like the claim was, then why wouldn't you still go after CoStar saying, well, you hired our guy, you took our secrets, and then you fired the guy? That sounds terrible. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. We have a new ad. Yes, I'm going to get to the tariff news. Hang on. We have a new ad. New Right by You ad brings a dose of reality. I want to watch this together. I'm going to have to reshare. And I am going to have to talk over part of it because I don't want YouTube to take me down. We're doing this for journalistic purposes. But sometimes, they can still battle you. So, okay, let's do that. All right. And let me share this tab instead. Here we are. Okay. How do I go into like a React version? Bam. Look at that. We are now in a React set. I have these new little layouts and I really like them because it allows me to do cool stuff like this. Nope, that's not the right view. That's the right view. All right. Let's watch this together because I'd love to get your thoughts on it. The new Realtor, this is an official, not a realtor.com. This is an official NAR ad, 60 seconds. For the audio listeners, it shows two people approaching a home, going through the doors, walking around. It's a disheveled house. It's painting. Oh, they love each other. He's bringing her breakfast in bed and she's pregnant and they have a baby. They're having a birthday at the house, playing with kids. There's a puppy. They're kissing a lot. They're playing in the yard. They're getting older. They're having fights. They're gray-headed. They're saying bye to their kids. He's playing video games alone. Rufus died and is buried in the yard. He's bringing breakfast in bed as an old man. She's an old woman. And now you hear construction and shaking.
Good to see you again.
Oh, hi.
So I see you like this place.
Okay, this was a flashback. Now they flash back to the very beginning of the ad where it shows the two looking at the house and having this dream about what could be. And someone is walking up to him. A realtor is walking up to him.
One thing, the lot next door has been rezoned. Going to be tons of construction. Luckily, that's not the place I'm showing you today.
And it says, don't let your dream home. Wait, what did it say? Don't let your dream home. I gotta go backwards because I missed. Don't let your dream home stay a dream. Okay, I got it now. Realtor, right by you. That's what it said. Realtor, right by you. I thought this was, I think, the best ad they've ever done. Honestly, whatever they spent on this, I think was pretty good. Money well spent. It's way better than a 3D logo. It's way better than the weird clients doing weird things that the agents have to put up with them. Y'all remember those ads? Those are terrible. It is a play on, if y'all remember the Rocket Mortgage ad that showed like a family, in a house, and there's this whole concept of, the family aging within the home, and my good friend Matt did the Benny house. But we've talked about that as a strategy for years and years. And there's been many real estate agents that have done that for listing videos. Makes a great listing video. And I love this take on it, that you see the dream happen. It does have some of those emotional strings that are pulled, but also it's actually kind of done in a way that seems a little faker and distant. And I don't know what that was, but when I first watched it, I was like, oh, this seems a little bit fake. And I don't know if they tried to do that on purpose, but there was something about it. I don't know what it was, but it still kept you at a distance. You weren't able to get kind of wrapped in the emotion like you were the Rocket.com Rocket Mortgage ad. That Rocket Mortgage ad, like, people were like crying, when they watched that ad. I mean, it was very emotional and had a high emotional appeal. This was the same, similar story, but there was still distance between you and the characters in the story. I don't know if any of you picked up on that as we were watching it. And then at the end, to see them talking to each other, and then suddenly they hear construction, and you look up and the ceiling starts to crack, and then it goes back to them standing in front of the house. That's when you realize that, oh, this was all the dream that became a nightmare. And now they have a real estate agent standing beside them that's rescuing them. That whole, they took what worked well for Rocket and then brought reality to it. And I think I thought it was really good. If I could make an edit, I would say, don't put the things in there that take people out. I would say keep the emotion at a really high level, but they didn't do that. There were several things that they kind of put in there to kind of give you a little emotional reprieve. And I don't think they should have. I think they should have made those emotional moments slightly longer than the other clips, and the fast clips being the fun loving times. And then the, slower clips being those of high interest and emotion. I think that would have made the impact a lot more at the end. But otherwise, I mean, if that's my only gripe, that's such a small gripe for a realtor ad. Given what we've had in the past, this ad is phenomenal. And I think it's one that people will enjoy seeing. And I wonder if they're almost piggybacking on Rocket Mortgage's success with their ad, which is so meaningful, by also releasing one that has that same type of meaningful start, but then, hey, there's a twist at the end. If they can get that out there enough times for enough people to see it, then basically now when everyone sees the Rocket Mortgage ad, that's what they're going to think of is the reality of the situation. So they're almost piggybacking on what Rocket Mortgage has done. And if they can get great circulation on this ad, then every time that Rocket Mortgage, the West Virginia, take me home, every time that starts, people are going to think of the realtor.org. We're still .org, right? Yeah. The NAR ad. They're still going to be thinking of it. So I thought this was really good. I thought it was a super smart move. I don't know that the consultants thought through everything on it, but I thought it was a really smart move. The other ads are, they have two more. Well, so why don't we'll save the others, because I know we got some economic news to come to, and we're already in an hour. It's been a long, but I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. So I don't have any gripes. Hillary says from YouTube, but the video ad seems like a realtor will know what zoning changes in construction will be in 40, 50 years. Yeah, that's true. But I think, yeah, if I did have to parse something, you could say it would have affected them a long time before that. And I also, I guess the other thing, if I was parsing, it might not be a bad thing to have construction next door, because then you can make bank by selling this home. So it does depend on the audience, because you can be like, hey, a huge opportunity here. People are bulldozing these old houses like this and building multi-million-dollar properties. So live here for a couple of years and then sell the thing and go live in your retirement home out on the land, right? I mean, we don't make the judgment for the client. We inform the client. And I did not like that she made the judgment call on behalf of the client. We give them all the data and they make the judgment call. But giving them the data, like, hey, this is slated to be maybe a master plan. We've had some master plans that have had, 20, 30 years out. So maybe that's what it was. But then, I mean, how long are you going to stay in the house? You're going to stay here 10, 15 years? All right. Well, the master plan says in 30 years, it's going to be different. But that's valid. Totally valid point. All right. Let's look at some tariffs. Tariffs. No. Tariffs push mortgage rates down, upping homebuyers' purchasing power. What? Did that really happen? Did tariffs really push? Yes. This article was published on April 4th. Tariffs push rates down. We talked about this last week, that would likely happen. And look, it happened. So if you listen to the show, you're a couple of days ahead. But let's look at the other news story. What happened to my tabs? I've got too many open. Hang on. And oh, here they are. Okay. Tariffs push mortgage rates down. You can see that mortgage rates, they started to decline. But then what happened this week? Mortgage rates slingshot higher as tariff uncertainty roils markets. And we've talked about this in the past. The up and down, back and forth isn't so great for people that are trying to plan short-term shifts. If you're trying to plan a short-term, real brokerage, I know, Real Brokerage hopped into my Instagram to inform everyone that Real Connect is going. I know you guys. I had this podcast longer than you guys were doing Real Connect. You should change the time of Real Connect. Don't you know that I was doing this podcast when you guys were planning that time? If you're going to join my live, don't try to pull people away. Mortgage rates slingshot higher now as uncertainty. So it's not the fact that there are tariffs in place. It's the uncertainty around the tariffs that's causing the rate to slingshot higher. So the average rate on the 30-year fix jumped 22 basis points Monday and another 3 basis points Tuesday to 6.85. Much like the stock market, the bond market has been on a roller coaster over the last week. So I have to say, if you're trying to plan like short-term investment strategies right now, it's going to be difficult because the leadership is not looking at short-term. They're looking at very long-term. And the negotiations that they are trying to get in place now for very long-term things is going to cause this up and down that you see in the stock market and the up and downs that you see in the bond market. That is going to happen for a little while until those new agreements get in place. Because you can't in a negotiation, you can't say, hey, oh, see, Scap says they're back up now. Wah. Yeah, I was getting to the article. I got it. In a negotiation, you can't say, hey, I'm going to impose all these tariffs, but in reality, I'm willing to back off of these if people approach us and start to make deals. Because now you've just lost the negotiation. You've 100% lost. You can't do that. So you make a case for it, which could happen, and you try to set up a win-win. We're going to impose all these tariffs. If no one does anything, our country makes money. We're going to lower the taxes of people using the tariff money, and also additional industries will hopefully be brought back. That's the goal of the tariffs. That's what protectionism does. And for those of you saying, oh, it doesn't work. Obviously it works because America allows some developing countries to tariff us so that they can basically piggyback on what our citizens are paying so that they develop their country using tariffs. So if it didn't work to help develop your countries and industry, then those countries wouldn't be able to use tariffs in that way. If it didn't work to make a country a lot of money off of some other country that's tariffing it, then other countries wouldn't be tariffing us. So it does work. Now, there's other things at play too, like currency manipulation. There are other barriers to trade in place. And that's someone noted on the chart that was up there, that chart that's on our thumbnail that, has all the tariffs and everything and how our tariff plans were going to match up with theirs. And that a huge purpose of this was to bring people to the negotiating table, because you can't, if a country is tariffing you 50%, and you don't have anything on them, you can't just go to them and start negotiating that because why? Why would they change anything? You're not going to do anything. But if you say, hey, we're imposing this tariff on you and we have the largest marketplace that you want to sell your goods to, suddenly you're going to say, why don't we have a phone call? Why don't we see if we can talk and work some of this out? So here's one win is everybody gets tariffs, more money comes in, supposedly using that money to pay off 36 trillion in debt, also using some of that money to give back to the citizens, put back into the economy so that more industry starts in the economy. And I know y'all are like, well, that doesn't happen right away. It takes 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And, if you have a kid who's in high school, then your kid may benefit from those new industries that are back. This is not a short-term plan. It's long-term. Now, what happens if everyone's like, whoa, reciprocal tariff. So if I drop our tariff or barrier to trade to zero, then that means mine with US is zero, right? Yes, that would be right. So what if they did that? That means it's a win for us too, because now it's lower tariffs and we can export more to those countries. Maybe they'll be more willing to buy it without having our prices having to be artificially inflated. And we're opening new markets for our people to export to that weren't available because of the super high tariff and barriers to trade. So it's a win-win for us. And you can still have new industries develop in the US. A big reason why industries don't develop in the US is because if they have to export out of the US, it's one of the most tariff countries in the world. So why would somebody put a plant or factory here, even if they wanted to use the US in ingenuity and labor? Why would somebody put that here? Are they going to have to pay our people a little more? Yeah. Would they get a better quality product? Perhaps. But why would they want to do that if wherever they export their good to, they're getting tariff to heck? So by lowering the tariffs on us, you can also bring people back to the US. So it's a win-win situation for us. If they deal with us, then it's a win. If they don't deal with us, it's a win. And you have to stand by that or no one's going to deal with you. Period. You're not going to make any progress. Should we cover the breaking news now?
Breaking news.
Yeah. Wait, I got my sounder. Where is it? Here it is. Breaking news from this week in real estate. Trump tariffs dropped to 10% universal rate for countries except for China for 90 days. What? What just happened? What you need to know. President Trump has dramatically reversed course, dropping his country-specific tariffs down to a universal 10% rate for all trade partners except China. China's tariff rate will jump to 125% effective immediately. West advisors claim the flip-flop was always the strategy, suggesting this past week of massive tariffs triggered a huge market losses was all for show. I don't know that they said it like that. Come on, CNBC. Beijing has a reciprocal 84% tariff on trade goods effective April 10th. The EU retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports. Actually, they approved that, but also said they wanted to deal with this. China issued new travel warnings for citizens going to the U.S. Trump's job approval rate. Why is that what we need to know? This depends on who you ask. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon said a recession was a likely outcome. If that was the case, the Fed would have lowered rates. We'll see what happens. Walmart pulled its outlook for operating income. Well, I mean, that's not going to change with the new, unless they start shipping stuff from other places than China. All right. 2 minutes ago, 11 minutes ago, let's go back. Trump media shares. Okay. This is all updated. So I'm going to I guess the bottom of the article has the update 4 hours ago. All right. Where is it? Hang on. I'm trying to find it here. Bear with me. This is just like a big, let me see if I can find it on a better news outlet, because that was just updating constantly with all these different mini stories. All right, there it is. Trump on Truth Social post says he is immediately raising tariffs on the Chinese imports to 125% based on the lack of respect China has shown the world markets. But Trump in the same post says he has always authorized a 90-day pause. Says he's authorized a 90-day pause for other countries, pointing out he says more than 75 nations who have reached out to negotiate. Yeah. So some of you are like, oh, there's no way this was the plan. This is literally what we just talked about, though. I definitely think it was the plan to bring all these countries back to negotiate with us on tariff and trade. And that's what they've done. But that's going to take some time. And you don't really want the markets to go crazy during that time, one way or the other, as people don't know. So he's putting it out 90 days. So now the market knows what's going to happen. It's definitely going to react on this 125% on China, but hopefully we can ink deals with these 75 nations. So that's going to put a ton of pressure on China, because now we're going to be opening new markets that previously were not open to compete with the Chinese market. So we will see. What's the change in stocks? I hope you guys invested in the dip. I was telling everyone, buy. And I'm not one to give stock advice, but I was right. All right. Now I'm not sure if this is, I don't know if this is part of it. U.S. hikes Canadian lumber duties to 34.45%. These are duties, not tariffs. So after a brief rally fueled by falling mortgage rates and the expected tariff exemption for Canadian lumber, home builders are taking another hit. According to CNN news article, the U.S. government is more than doubling duties on Canadian softwood lumber, driving up its cost and sending home builder stock into a fresh slide. What's this mean for the housing market? Duties on Canadian lumber to increase from 14.4% to 34.5%. Is that double? Oh, no, more than double. The U.S. Department of Commerce plans to increase duties on Canadian softwood lumber. 30% of softwood is used in U.S. home construction. Canada accounts for 80% of those imports. Builders estimate that the cost in an average home could rise $9,200 due to these tariffs. This is a tariff that will directly impact the cost of a home to build. I don't know how it's going to trickle to consumers. We'll have to see. but this is a duty that will impact housing for sure. Now, also note that it could be a strategy to negotiate more with them. When we talked about the steel and aluminum tariffs that were put on, a lot of people were saying it impacted housing, and we did the math on it, and roughly maybe it would impact housing $500 to $1,000. But this one is significant because a lot of the house is built with that, with wood, softwood. In a statement released on Saturday, April 5th, British Columbia Premier David Eby described the duties increase as an attack on forced workers and British Columbians. He also slammed it as unjustified, end up driving up housing costs for Americans. Meanwhile, Andrew Miller, it can't be both. It can't be both. Either it's an attack on forced workers and British Columbians because they're going to have to eat the increased cost, or it's an unjustified move that'll drive up housing costs for Americans who will have to eat the cost. You can't have it both ways. You can't say both people are going to be paying the higher cost. The forced workers in the British Columbias, they're going to have to eat the cost somehow by maybe not producing as much. And then also at the same token, the Americans are going to have to, because we're willing to pay it. You can't totally have it both ways. It's going to be kind of one or the other, or it won't be as drastic on either. Either half the impact on each, or it's a severe impact on one or the other. I'm saying you can have a severe impact on both. The other thing that's happening, though, if you ask the home builders about the situation, they're also not a huge fan of it, but they released this, says good news, bad news on lumber production and tariff. It says opportunities for increase in domestic lumber production. In a move the NAHB encouraged, President Trump signed an executive order that calls for a 25% increase in timber production of federal lands. They want to increase timber output, simplify permitting, remove the National Environmental Policy Act process, reduce implementation and contracting burdens, and work directly with the states and local governments and forest product producers to ensure that the Forest Service delivers our reliable and consistent supply of timber. So he's basically cutting all the red tape and trying to make it easier for people to cut timber here and generate softwood lumber here, while also imposing a duty on Canada. Now, my understanding of the duty and part of the purpose for the duty is to get Canada to lower their 200 and some odd % duty or tariff on dairy, on American dairy. So that's kind of the battle. And we'll see what happens. I have no idea what they're going to do there. But this is not. So whenever you see that the tariffs went down 10%, I would want clarification. What about this duty as well? I don't think the duty is going to change. I think the tariff's going to change. I don't think the duty will change. Interesting article on Redfin. I almost called him Red Rocket. 1 in 5 home buyers expect to sell stocks to fund a down payment in a Redfin survey. 20% of prospective home buyers plan to sell stock. Homeowners, how did you accumulate money for your down payment? 13 sold stock investments. 10 homeowners, which actions have you taken to afford your mortgage payment? 10% sold stock. Renters, whoa. For a renter, which actions have you taken to afford rent? 6% sold stock. Wow. Luckily, that's weird for me because in my brain, I'm like, that's not an investment. You're taking money out of investment and then putting it into, you're basically throwing it out the window to just pay rent. Huh. Unless, let's say they were retired persons and they just rented and they have this investment account they're living off of. And it's got plenty of money in it. And the way they pay their bill is to sell some stock and pay the bill. What percentage of people would be in that position of that 6%? Because when I first read it, I thought, oh, a renter's in trouble. They can't afford it. They're dipping into their 401k to pay, and they're paying taxes and everything else on it too. But that may not be the case. It might be a retired person that has a huge nest egg and they're just paying their rent from that nest egg. So I want to look into that number a little more, because the idea I had in my head may not be correct. Likely home buyers, which actions are you going to take to afford your down payment? 20% expect to sell stock investments. Well, good on the 20% for having stock investments. I think they said that 94% of stock is owned by the top 10% of something. Wasn't that something that I've seen quoted in the last couple of days since the stock market went down? 68% of condos sold below list price in February. That's the highest share in 5 years. We know about everything that's happening in the condos in the areas like Florida and Miami, and the new fees that are imposed in order to keep those up. And I bet that is a huge portion of them. Roughly 2 in 3 condos sell for less than list. The share of townhomes selling for below their original asking price also hit the highest level in February in 5 years, 59.4% from 54.7% a year earlier. The share of single-family homes selling for less than list price hit its highest level in February, climbing to 64.2% from 61.2%. That's also smaller than the uptick for condos. So condos had the highest uptick. Okay. We already know about the condo market. I wanted to cover this last article because it's interesting. There's actually 2 more articles. Sorry, there's this one. I'm missing an article. I'm going to find it. Hang on. I'm going to find it because I know it's on this homepage as well. I'm going to open this in another window and I'll find it while I'm talking about this. Okay. What a recession could mean for a housing market. So this was more potent before this article was more potent before the breaking news that we had during the show. But before all the tariffs were put into place, people were, and then now take it down to 10% and only put on China. Before that happened, people were panicky about the recession. And then the Fed had their meeting. They're like, yeah, we're also concerned about a recession. So we're not going to do anything to the rates, which is the opposite behavior of someone that would be concerned about a recession. So normally the Fed, if concerned about a recession, would lower the rate. But they weren't that concerned, I guess, because they didn't lower the rate. So President Donald Trump's new tariff has raised fears of a trade war. No, I put this in the contributor chat. I said, man, we've had a long conversation today. All right. I said, still a lot of talk about recession. What do you guys think? Are we on the brink? And Andy said, we've been on the brink for a long time, I think. And I said, yes, since 2016, I guess. It does feel like everyone's been talking about recession. And it's like it's the boy that cried wolf. It's just not happening. Scap says, I've appraised several houses lately lower than their list price. But then again, I'm an appraiser. Yeah, that's what you guys do, right? Who cares what one person is willing to pay and what another person is willing to sell it for, which is the definition of value. No, it's got to be, you got to kiss the ring of the appraisers, right, Scap? Oh, Scap just went on a call. I hope he heard all that, because right when I looked at Clubhouse, it lit up that he was on a call. So I think that would be hilarious if I was saying this and he got a call he had to take at that time. Right what I said, right, Scap? Oh, goodness. All right. Since Trump announces sweeping reciprocal tariffs on most trading partners April 2nd, the benchmark S&P 500 has dropped 4 straight trading sessions, plunging more than 12% altogether. The sell-off wiped out more than $10 trillion in value. JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon. Yeah, we've already talked about him. Let's see. Even billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, a vocal Trump supporter, warned that the world is on the brink of a self-induced economic winter. Yes, he's still a Trump supporter. It's self-induced. It's not self-induced by us. It's self-induced by the rest of the world because they continue to tariff us. Uh, recessions are typically marked by a slowdown in hiring and an increase in layoffs and rising unemployment rate. However, a recession is not the same thing as a stock market crash, although a steep enough decline in the market could trigger real economic slowdown. Although recession fears are rising, it's not a guaranteed outcome. Trump has insisted that the plan will boost the U.S. housing economy, and he may strike beneficial deals with key trading partners, reducing the economic fallout from the tariff scheme. All right, what a recession would mean for home prices, and I'm just going to give you the summary. Almost nothing is the answer. The reason is we are still so short on supply that if buyers back off from purchasing, it may take a little longer to sell. It may increase the days on market, and we may not see some aspirational home prices that we've seen. But for the most part, home prices are not expected to go down despite SCAP's appraisals. Home prices are still slated to go up. They'll just go up less. And this is where you see the home price gains slow, or home price gains slump. That's the type of news that you'll hear. What a recession could mean for mortgage rates? Well, hopefully it would go down, right? An economic downturn would also prompt the Federal Reserve to loosen monetary policy, resulting in lower borrowing costs. So if the cost to borrow are lower, then what's going to happen? Well, more buyers are going to come back to the market. So it's a net nothing. A net nothing for housing. It'll still go up a little bit. All right. Last article of the day. A weird one. Did you guys follow the Alex Murdaugh murder case? I was. Yes. Who said yes? Andy. Okay. I love watching legal stuff. Like I always say, I'm not an attorney or whatever, but I would be pretty good because I watch so much. Like, I don't like the true crime stuff. I actually can't stand that stuff. I like just watching the court cases. I remember actually in high school having to defend someone that was convicted of, I can't remember what it was, like murder or whatever. They're convicted of doing something wrong. In our class, we had to set up a whole trial. And I think it was written to where everyone was, you were kind of supposed to convict the person. But I poked so many holes in the prosecution's case that the jury found my client not guilty. And the teacher pulled me to the side and was like, that hardly ever happens in this scenario. That's pretty good. So I have always loved that kind of thing. All right. So this Alex Murdaugh case, he was convicted of murdering his son and his wife. And I know what you're thinking, like, what does this have to do with real estate? Hang in there. He was convicted of murdering his son and his wife. It was a huge trial on TV, on YouTube. I mean, you could follow every turn that took. You get to see the stuff that the jury even didn't get to see. It was fascinating case. He's convicted of doing it. Okay. The mansion / estate where all this happened goes onto the market. Alex Blair bought the property at an auction in February 2024 for $1 million. He did an extensive renovation on the home. He even added on to it. And it was originally what he said was a second dwelling for his family. He's doing all right. However, less than a year after taking ownership of the estate, Blair had put it back on the market, this time for more than twice what he paid for it because it's haunted. No, I'm kidding. That's not it. But more than twice what he paid for it. Now, if you're thinking like, oh, okay, he's only doing this for the crime drama scene, right? And we've talked about this. Usually in October, I have a couple of stories about haunted houses and the haunted home market and how actually you can make more money in the by having a haunted home. In some cases, there's like a huge market for it. The same thing for the crime drama houses. There's a bigger market for that than you think, where people are willing to pay real monies for that type of property, which obviously Alex did. $1 million for it. So the home where Murdaugh brutally unalived his wife and son on June 7th, 2021 has undergone dramatic transformation since it was sold at auction, including the addition of a sizable extension as well as a gut interior. All right, so this was the original photo of the home, and you can see where it's kind of got an expansion, a little bit of, well, it's kind of harder to see. The aerial view will show more. All right, so those are some photos of what it looked like. It was basically a plantation style home with a metal roof. Looked really nice. Had a barn. So this is the guy. Blair previously told Realtor.com that he had purchased the property to use as second home for his family. Now you can see these huge expansions. So if you go back to the original photo, you see these add-ons. It looks like an add-on in the back, evenly on the sides. Those were added onto again and made huge. So he said, soon after buying the home, they began an extensive renovation, which included a sizable extension. The home now boasts much more living space. You have to say boasts. Much more living space, as well as more modern aesthetic. Here's some of the photos of the interior. Blair revealed his hope that the incredibly detailed overhaul of the property would help to remove any bad stigma from it, noting that he wanted to change the home's narrative in a positive way. It's so fresh, though. I mean, it was such a huge case, and it's so fresh on people's mind. Would you buy a house like this? Drop it in the comments. Would you buy a murder home? No, Andy says no. I wouldn't buy this one just because I know everything about this case, and there's no way I could live there.
Yeah, I think especially this one, but in general, no, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't want to deal with
the kitchen.
Violence. I don't want to deal with any bad juju, any bad spirits, anything crazy like that.
You're not purchasing the ghost home.
No, I'll go investigate it, but I'm not. Absolutely not.
Shannon, Sharon, I can't really see the Clubhouse chat, you guys. But Mickey said they watched the Murdaugh trial, Murdaugh, and then Sharon said hard no. Yeah, drop in the comments. Would you buy a house like this? The kitchen was expanded, so it's a bigger kitchen now. There's newly installed primary bathroom. I mean, it's huge. The add-ons and the changes were huge. They actually did a really beautiful job. This is what it used to look like. Wood paneling throughout. This is what it looked like when they bought it. It was a very wood house. They had wood flooring and wood walls. So like where the floor ended and the walls began is hard to tell. Unsurprisingly, the listing made no mention of the property's murky history, which Blair previously told Realtor.com was not unusual in the local area. Every property in Low Country has a history. I mean, not one like that. One bad thing about our state is slave trading happened here. Okay, yeah, but I mean, how far removed are you away from that versus this? Bad things have happened on every property, but you have a choice to either focus on the negative or to create a positive narrative, Andy. And that's what I want to do. When asked about his decision to extend the home with an addition, Blair joked that it was simply an obsessive desire to make the property symmetrical. Who's a symmetrical fan? I'm not a symmetrical guy. I don't like, the more symmetry something like that has, the less I'm interested. So I don't like symmetry at all in that kind of thing. Scap says, I'd buy it. They accrued outside the home. I see what you're saying. Yes. You have to be careful what you say on the YouTubes. Hillary said, right price, perfect location, a bit of sage and a priest. I'm down. A bit of sage and a priest. What's it worth appraisals? Scap, a 99% negative adjustment for murder. Can you say murder on YouTube? Well, I just did. So Blair had plenty of experience with home renovations as the owner of a business that offers a wide range of water, fire, smoke, and mold storm services.
Yeah, here's the other odd thing is that you're going to have those people that are interested in the property. It's even though it's a large area, you're
Yeah.
probably going to get a bunch of drive-bys. People drive
So
onto
true.
the property because it's such a well-known
Flyovers, drones. How many drones have
Yeah.
flown that property and gone down? Because, you know, a lot of people think, well, drones flying overhead is not a big deal, but you could drop those drones down actually, you know, almost on the property and fly around. Andy, you'll like this.
Gotta protect your airspace.
Yeah, I know, get a shotgun. For those of you who watched the trial, you will know that Blair didn't, because Blair previously revealed that he is in possession of the door from the kennels in which Paul was I don't know how to, I mean, I guess you could say that on YouTube, shot, and claimed that the location of the bullet holes indicate that Murdaugh didn't do it. Okay. So a huge question, if he didn't, who did? Number two statement actually is, everyone who watched the trial knows about the simulation that was built with that and how that can be explained. So I don't think Blair watched the trial, because if he did, he would know that, nah, that's not evidence of that. Actually, it's evidence of quite the opposite. All right, well, there it is. So let me know. Scap says passive income, Andy, passive income. You know, taking it and turning it into an Airbnb, that's not a bad idea.
Absolutely.
Now you too can come and investigate. That's what he shouldn't have done, a single renovation. No renovation. He should actually work to preserve it and just renovate a couple of bedrooms and have just those bedrooms available. Wait, how do I get back to my main view? There it is.
You can put container cabins on there to allow different small groups of people to come in and do their own, investigations, the ghost investigations, whatever on the property.
I mean, you would make so much money. There would be so many people that would just rent it out and have their own, like, little ghost story type of party there. And you could make it a party property and just, have some, like those kennels, for instance, you have it preserved to where nobody can adjust it.
Halloween.
Oh yeah. Blair, we have a money-making opportunity for you, sir. It doesn't sound like he needs the money, but I mean, that would be a lot of fun. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining the show today. That's all I got. We'll see what happens with the new tariff news that we have. It's wild times, everyone. Wild times. But I'm excited about it. I think where we're headed in the long run is going to be good. And I'm not too worried about the day-to-day. So if you have any questions, or if you guys want to send me an article that I didn't cover today, go to Ray Zorback, RayZorback on Instagram, and shoot me a message with a link. Linda Martin just sent me an email, and she just emailed me. You could also do that. You can email me a story, but sending it to that Instagram is a lot easier. So thanks for joining me, everybody. I got to go to work. Got to sell some houses. Bye.